All right, so we're diving into Family Guy Season 23, Episode 13. And I gotta say, sometimes I feel like the writers are just messing with us. They know we're gonna dissect every single second, and I swear they throw in stuff just to watch us squirm. Like, who decided this episode, the one where the gang goes to Bermuda, should be called Family Guy Season 23, Episode 13? That's not a title. That's a filing cabinet number. It's like they ran out of ideas for an actual title and just punted. And it's a shame because this episode, while it has its moments, feels like it's caught in that weird middle ground. It's not the worst thing they've ever done, but it's definitely not going to make anyone's highlight reel. It's got that classic Family Guy structure. Everybody's off doing their own thing, barely interacting, and then maybe, two of them bump into each other in a hallway for a quick gag. This time around, it's Peter, Lois, and the rest of the crew trying to have a nice, relaxing vacation in Bermuda. But of course, nothing is ever relaxing with these guys. We've got Peter's usual boneheaded decisions, Lois trying to salvage some semblance of a normal trip, Brian being, well, Brian, and Stewie doing whatever Stewie does best, which is usually being a terrifyingly intelligent child with a God complex. And if you think that sounds like a typical Family Guy episode, you'd be mostly right. But there's this one little thread, this one choice the writers made that I cannot stop thinking about. It's this whole bit with Brian and his new lifestyle. I mean, it's jarring and it's a little uncomfortable, and it makes you question where they're even going with his character. It's like they're desperately trying to shake things up, and sometimes that's good, but other times it feels like they're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. So buckle up, because this episode is a trip, and not just because they're in Bermuda. We're going to talk about Brian's bizarre new itinerary, Peter's baffling logic, and a whole lot of questionable life choices, all set against the backdrop of a vacation that's more chaotic than chill. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll be asking yourself what the hell we just watched. And maybe, just maybe, you'll understand why this episode is something. Something that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about cruise ship gift shops and the true meaning of a vacation. This episode is going to make you think, it's going to make you laugh, and it might even make you a little bit sad for the characters, which is frankly a miracle. So, yeah, if you enjoy the ride, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ding that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more of our deep dives into the madness. It's the least you can do, and frankly, it helps us keep this crazy train rolling. All right, let's get into it. This episode, on the surface, is all about a family vacation gone wrong. Peter and Lois decide to take a trip to Bermuda, hoping for some romance and relaxation. Meanwhile, everyone else in the family has their own little side quests. Brian is trying to reinvent himself, Stewie is up to his usual schemes, Meg and Chris are just there, mostly getting into trouble, and Quagmire, well, Quagmire is Quagmire. The primary storyline seems to revolve around Peter's complete inability to be a functional human being on vacation. He's immediately distracted by a sign for world's best cheesecake and decides that's the priority, despite Lois's clear desire for something a bit more romantic. It's classic Peter. He takes the path of least resistance, the path of most gluttony, and somehow always manages to drag everyone else down with him. Lois, bless her heart, tries to steer the ship, but Peter's a force of nature, a hurricane of terrible ideas. Then you have Brian, who has apparently decided to use the lyrics to the Beach Boys song Kokomo as his actual life plan. It's a funny enough premise, the idea of someone's entire existence being dictated by song lyrics, but it quickly takes a weird turn when Brian starts to embody this detached, almost soulless version of himself, especially when he's working at the resort. He's supposed to be the intellectual, the voice of reason, but here he's just going through the motions, and it feels a little hollow. Stewie, on the other hand, is off in his own world, embracing the Bermuda Guy-Angle, which in his mind is a place where handsome men disappear. It's a twisted sense of adventure, and he drags a reluctant Brian into it, adding another layer of chaos. The episode tries to tie these threads together through the resort setting, but it often feels disjointed. You'll have a scene with Peter and Lois, then a scene with Brian and Stewie, then back to Peter, and it's like they're just cutting between unrelated stories. The writing quality here is typical Family Guy. Some jokes land, some fall flat, and some are so out there you can't help but laugh. But there's a noticeable lack of cohesion. The jokes about Hilaria Baldwin and the Bermuda Guy-Angle are specific and topical, which is great, but they don't always feel organically woven into the plot. It's more like, hey, we're in Bermuda, let's make a Bermuda joke, or let's talk about this recent celebrity controversy. Visually, it's a Family Guy episode. Nothing groundbreaking. The animation is fine, the pacing is a little all over the place, but that's pretty standard for them. It's not a show that's known for its cinematic flair. The real takeaway from this episode, for me, is Brian's storyline. It feels like a deliberate attempt to do something different with him, and while it's interesting, it also feels a bit like a misstep. It's like they're trying to make him more complex, but they end up making him more robotic. The exploration of his travel persona, Desmond Voyage, is meant to be a commentary on identity and escapism, but it comes off as a bit shallow. The episode asks, what does it mean to live your life by a script, whether it's song lyrics or a made-up persona? But it doesn't really give us a satisfying answer. It's a good idea, but the execution is a bit messy. It's not an episode that reinvents the wheel, but it does offer a few chuckles and some moments that make you scratch your head. My personal verdict? It's a perfectly average Family Guy episode. It does what it's supposed to do, make you laugh, show you the characters being idiots, and wrap it up. But it lacks that spark, that oomph, that makes you want to rewatch it or talk about it for days. It's a disposable episode, and that's a shame because it had potential. The writers could have leaned harder into the Kokomo itinerary, or they could have made Brian's identity crisis more impactful. Instead, they played it safe, and it shows. It's an episode that exists but doesn't really leave a lasting impression. It's the kind of episode you'd forget about 5 minutes after it ends, unless you're watching it for a deep dive like this, in which case you'll remember the weird parts for a while longer. And that's kind of the problem, isn't it? It's memorable for the wrong reasons sometimes. It's the Bermuda Triangle of sitcom episodes. You go in, you get a few laughs, but you probably won't remember exactly how you got there or what you did. And for an episode that's supposed to be a vacation, that's a pretty damning assessment. It's like they went to the effort of setting up this whole tropical paradise, only to forget to pack the actual fun. It's the kind of episode where you spend more time analyzing the potential hidden meanings than you do actually enjoying the jokes. And that's not ideal for a show like Family Guy.
It's supposed to be mindless entertainment, not a philosophical debate. But hey, at least we got that cheesecake sign. That's something, right? I guess. It's the thought that counts. Or in this case, the sign. And we'll get to that sign and Peter's obsession with it in a bit. For now, let's just say that this episode tries to do a lot of things, and it succeeds at some, fails at others, and mostly just coasts on the Family Guy formula. It's a lukewarm vacation, and we're going to dissect why. It's an episode that feels like it was written on a Tuesday afternoon by people who really wanted to be on vacation themselves, and it shows. There's a lack of urgency, a lack of real stakes, and a lot of jokes that feel like they were plucked from a generic joke generator. And that's the biggest disappointment. It's not that it's bad per se, it's just meh. And for Family Guy, meh is a death sentence. We expect wild, we expect outrageous, we expect moments that make us question our sanity. This episode gives us mild amusement and a whole lot of confusion about Brian's life choices. So, we've set the stage. The family's in Bermuda. The potential for chaos is high. The reality? It's just another Tuesday for the Griffins, which, when you think about it, is kind of the joke. Their lives are a perpetual state of disaster, so a tropical vacation is just another backdrop for their awfulness. And that's exactly what this episode delivers, for better or worse. We're going to unpack it all, bit by bit. And trust me, there's a lot to unpack, even if it's just about how much Peter loves cheesecake. Some episodes of this show feel like a carefully crafted masterpiece. Others feel like a fever dream. This one? It's somewhere in between. It's got moments of brilliance, moments of pure stupidity, and moments where you just wonder what the writers were thinking. It's a mixed bag, and we're going to sort through that bag together. It's the kind of episode that makes you appreciate the truly great ones even more, because it highlights what happens when the show is just going through the motions. It's a reminder that even a show as consistently funny as Family Guy can have an off day, and this, my friends, is definitely an off day. But hey, at least they're in Bermuda. That's got to count for something, right? Right? We'll see. We'll see. So let's dive in. This whole Bermuda trip kicks off with Peter getting these glasses, which are awful, by the way. He got them for free, and he's already put prescription lenses in them.
It's the kind of petty, cheap move that's classic Peter. He's always looking for a way to save a buck, even if it means looking like a complete idiot. And he's so proud of them, too. He's like, it's awful, just awful. And then he puts them on and seems to love them. It's that disconnect, that self-delusion that makes Peter such a Peter. He thinks he's being clever, but everyone else just sees him as a buffoon. And this is just the start of his vacation logic. They're in group R for boarding, which is probably the worst group. And Peter's all about crowding the gate anyway. No respect for the system, no respect for anyone else, just pure Peter. And then, bam, we're in Bermuda. The dialogue about Bermuda being beautiful is almost a throwaway line, just setting the scene. But it's immediately undercut by the fact that they're not here to enjoy the scenery. They're here because Brian has turned the lyrics of the song Kokomo into his personal life map. This is such a classic Family Guy move. Take something seemingly innocent, like a catchy song, and twist it into a ridiculous character trait. Brian, the dog who is supposedly sophisticated and intellectual, is apparently basing his entire travel agenda on a 1988 Beach Boys hit. It's absurd, and it's the kind of absurdity that this show thrives on. He doesn't have a travel agent, he just has Kokomo. This is what his life has become. And Lois remembers his previous trips to Aruba and Montego, confirming that this isn't a new thing for him. He's literally ticking off places from the song. And when he mentions Benihana, Peter insists it's not part of Kokomo. Brian corrects him, saying it is part of Kokomo, and Peter, being Peter, immediately assumes it's the cheapest one. It's this weird, layered joke. The main joke is Brian using song lyrics as his itinerary. The secondary joke is Peter's cheapness and misunderstanding of everything. He's not thinking about the song, he's thinking about saving money on a teppanyaki restaurant. And the idea that Kokomo isn't real, that it's a common misconception, is the meta joke. The writers know that Kokomo isn't a real place in the way the song implies, and they're playing with that. Joe even chimes in with the famous Eagles line about the Hotel California. Only thing about Kokomo, though, is you can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. It's a funny callback, but it also highlights the absurdity of Brian's quest. He's chasing a fictional paradise, a destination that's basically a myth.
And then the show throws us a curveball with, "Welcome to the White Lotus, Bermuda." This is a direct reference, of course, and it immediately sets a tone. It's not the flower, it's the car, which is a fun little detail. But it also suggests a more luxurious, possibly more complicated setting than just a standard resort. Brian, in his suit, is looking sharp, and Lois is impressed that he's already a manager. It's a nice contrast to Peter's buffoonery. Brian seems to have found some purpose, some direction. He explicitly states that working here has been just the change I needed. He's sobered up and starting a new, clean life. This is a significant character development, or at least it's intended to be. The show has touched on Brian's drinking in the past, so this is a continuation of that. He's trying to be better. And then we get Stewie and Jeffrey, who are, well, they're into the Bermuda Guy-Angle. This is where the episode takes a dark, weird turn. Stewie's fascination with handsome men disappearing in Bermuda. It's unsettling, and it's also a classic Stewie observation. He sees the darkness beneath the surface of things. He's looking for something morbid and thrilling. And this is already a good trip for them, which is just creepy given what they're talking about. The room is ridiculously expensive, $1,000 a night, and Peter is outraged that it doesn't come with an iPad. This is another classic Peter gripe. He's obsessed with modern conveniences, but only when they serve his immediate comfort and demand. The painting in the room is also a gag, depicting a very messed up local legend about a husband, a wife, and a regional airline pilot. It's dark humor, and it's also a bit of a foreshadowing of the darker themes that might emerge. Peter, of course, doesn't get it. He just wants to get to his room and take a dump he's been holding in since America. This is the kind of crude, relatable humor that Family Guy often relies on. It's not sophisticated, but it's funny in its sheer grossness. And then we get to Peter and Lois's romantic vacation attempt. Peter's idea of romance is tied to drapes that open with a button. It's such a trivial thing, but it's his kryptonite. Lois has to pick her poison: shears, blackout, or she breaks it. It's a small, silly moment, but it perfectly captures Peter's inability to handle anything remotely complicated or romantic. He's easily distracted, easily flustered, and easily defeated by basic hotel amenities. Lois decides to go to the pool while Peter fiddles with the drapes, and she needs 20 minutes for the red lines from her socks to smooth out.
This is another detail that feels very Lois. She's trying to maintain some dignity and composure, even on a disastrous vacation. And then Brian shows up, and Stewie wants him to get a bellhop fired because the bellhop yelled at him for playing on a baggage cart. Stewie, of course, has no empathy. He's focused on his own power trip, and Brian is being dragged into it. Brian tries to appeal to Stewie's better nature by mentioning the bellhop's children, but Stewie is unmoved. This is where the Bermuda Guy-Angle really starts to get creepy. Stewie's obsession with handsome men disappearing, and now his willingness to ruin someone's life over a minor infraction. He's embracing the dark side of Bermuda. Brian, meanwhile, is trying to maintain his new, clean persona, but he's getting pulled into Stewie's schemes. Stewie's dressed up as Desmond Voyage, his travel persona. This is where the episode really leans into the identity crisis angle for Brian. He's trying to be someone new, someone sophisticated, and he's adopted this whole persona. And he specifically requested an ocean view room, only to find out it's technically a bay view. Brian, the pedantic dog, has to correct the hotel staff on the difference between a bay and the ocean. It's a funny bit of character detail, but it also highlights his obsession with perfection and control. He doesn't want to look at any land. He wants the pure, unadulterated ocean. It's a small thing, but it says a lot about his current mindset. He's trying to curate his experience. Then we have this random couple who just scooch in next to Brian and Stewie to settle an argument about Hilaria Baldwin. This is classic Family Guy filler. They're not integral to the plot, but they provide a topical joke. The explanation of Hilaria Baldwin's alleged persona creation is pretty spot on for the kind of shallow cultural commentary the show sometimes engages in. And then they invite Desmond Voyage, Brian, to dinner. Brian, ever the snob, says he's gluten-free, but not medically, just for the drama. This is another jab at performative lifestyles and the desire for attention. He's trying to be interesting, but it comes off as pretentious. Chris wants to buy rum to get totally blitzed because the drinking age is 18. His brother Stewie calls him out on it, saying it's sad he feels the need to show off. It's a brief moment of genuine brotherly concern, which is rare for these two. Meg is desperate for a touristy t-shirt, specifically one that can compete with Neil Goldman's Senior Frogs Cancun shirt.
This is classic Meg, seeking validation and status through trivial consumerism. Her quest for the t-shirt is treated with the same urgency as any other character's major plot point. And the price tag, $90 for rum and a shirt, is outrageous. This leads to a hilarious bit where Peter haggles over the price of nothing from the gift shop. It's a genius bit of dialogue, highlighting Peter's cheapness and the absurdity of hotel prices. $5 for nothing? It's a perfect encapsulation of his character. Then we have the St. David's Lighthouse. Peter wants to go, but Lois calls it a stupid lighthouse. Peter's immediate reaction is to want to go to a roadhouse instead. This is his default setting. Avoid anything that requires mild effort or intellectual engagement and find something that involves immediate gratification, preferably involving food and alcohol. And the cheesecake sign reappears. Peter insists on stopping for world's best cheesecake, even though Lois knows it's not true. His logic? He trusts a sign over his wife. This is the core of their relationship, really. Lois is the sensible one, Peter is the oblivious idiot, and it's a perfect setup for Peter to ruin another trip. Glenn, meanwhile, is off with Lois. The implication is clear, and it's a classic Quagmire move. Lois is clearly tired of Peter and is looking for something else. And the taxi driver's polite offer is met with fear from Peter because he's from the US and is scared of talking to anyone not at the resort. This is a funny commentary on American tourists and their insular nature. They don't want to engage with the local culture, they just want the curated resort experience. Brian at the front desk is still trying to maintain his new persona. He requests a wake-up call, acknowledging the irony that everyone has phones now. It's a sign of his attempt to be an adult, to follow the rules even when they're redundant. Stewie's apology fruit platter arrives, and it's mostly honeydew. Brian is still complaining even with the apology. He's dissecting the definition of a berry, proving he's still Brian even while trying to be Desmond. The wordplay around strawberries not being berries is a classic Family Guy move. It's pedantic, it's clever, and it's funny because it's so utterly unnecessary. Brian's insistence on the definition of berry is a deep dive into his character's need for intellectual superiority. Even when he's trying to be something else, he's stuck being Brian. Peter, meanwhile, is blissfully unaware of everyone else's struggles. He found the world's best cheesecake and even brought back an extra piece. He's living his best life, completely detached from the consequences of his actions. And Lois and Quagmire are posting stuff on Instagram. It's a modern touch, showing how their affair is playing out in real time for anyone paying attention. Peter, however, is unbothered. He's happy that his wife is having fun, even if it's with someone else, because it means he can just chill and eat cheesecake. This is peak Peter logic. His own happiness derived from his wife's perceived happiness, even if that happiness involves another man, as long as it means he doesn't have to deal with it. He's gotten the best of both worlds. Lois is entertained, and he gets to be lazy. He gets more towels, he eats cheesecake, his priorities are clear and simple. The salmon at the hotel is mentioned, and then we see a Christmas ornament from the Lighthouse gift shop. This is a random detail that becomes important later. Peter loves small things that remind him of big things. It's a sweet, if slightly odd, character note. He's cherishing his memories, even if they're from a tourist trap. Then we get to the sarong. Peter is feeling hot, and Lois wants to change into a sarong. Brian also wants to slip into his sarong. This leads to the sarong run joke. The idea of multiple characters independently deciding to wear sarongs at the same time is a funny coincidence, but also a setup for potential awkwardness or romantic tension. The joke that no one in the history of the world has ever gone on a sarong run is the punchline, highlighting the absurdity of the situation. It's played off as a normal thing, but the show knows it's anything but. Stewie, meanwhile, is with Rupert, trying to maintain his adult persona as Desmond Voyage. He's spending time in the business center, running an Epson printer. It's a hilariously mundane activity for Stewie, but he's doing it to fit in, to be seen as an adult. He even boasts about not crying when the printer jammed, highlighting his struggle to control his childish impulses. And then, credit card roulette for dinner. This is a classic sitcom trope, used here to create a sense of shared experience and playful competition. The reveal of the Peppa Pig bookmark on the credit card is a perfect gag. It's childish, it's unexpected, and it's a great visual joke. The idea of customizing credit cards with nostalgic references like the Montreal Expos is a nice touch that adds to the realism, even in a cartoon.
Brian as Desmond is being impeccably polite, trying to maintain his cover, but Stewie, in his adult persona, is still Stewie. He's manipulative and demanding. He complains about the seafood tower, calling it a seafood duplex, and demands another one that you haven't talked all over. This is Stewie being Stewie, even when he's trying to be an adult. He's never satisfied, always looking for the next best thing, and never afraid to complain. And then he asks for the score of the Expos game. This is another nod to Brian's nostalgia, and a callback to the customized credit card. It shows how even in his adult persona, Stewie can't completely escape his childlike obsessions. He's playing a game, but he's still Stewie at heart. The yacht outing is proposed, and Brian as Desmond agrees, but only if the menu is gluten-free. This is still his facade. He's trying to be sophisticated and health-conscious, but it's all an act. He's playing the part. Then we get to the volcano, the purple head. The double entendre here is obvious, and the writers lean into it hard. They're sailing to and hiking up a volcano that's known to erupt when you least expect it and has created the world's biggest ash hole. It's crude, it's sexual, and it's classic Family Guy. Stewie is going to be sacrificed because he's a virgin. This is a darkly humorous twist, and it's classic Stewie. He's always getting into dangerous situations, and now he's going to be a literal sacrifice. And he's going to blame Brian, saying he turned his job into a nightmare. This is Stewie's way of deflecting blame and asserting his dominance. He's not going to take responsibility for his own actions. Meg and Chris get caught shoplifting. The idea of shoplifting rum and a t-shirt is a desperate move for Meg, who just wants to fit in and impress Neil Goldman. She's trying to one-up him with the Senor Frog's Cancun shirt. The novelty license plates to spell Meg are a classic Meg-level, slightly pathetic attempt at personalization. The humor comes from the absurdity of the situation and the characters' desperate attempts to justify their actions. The mention of celebrity shoplifters like Robert Durst and Jameis Winston adds another layer of humor, comparing Meg to notorious figures. Peter's obsession with the cheesecake sign continues. He chooses the sign over Lois's desire to see the White House. His logic is purely based on immediate gratification, and he's going to ruin another trip for Lois. This is a recurring theme, Peter's selfishness versus Lois's desire for a normal life. It's the engine of many of their conflicts. The lighthouse scene is cut short because Peter is focused on the cheesecake. The taxi driver's greeting is met with fear from Peter, showing his fear of anyone non-associated with the resort. He's a pampered tourist who wants everything to be familiar and safe, even if it means being rude to locals. Brian, back at the front desk, is dealing with Stewie's complaints. The resort executive is heavily embroidered and open-collared, a visual gag. Stewie is complaining about the movie selection, specifically the lack of Michael Clayton. He wants George Clooney shouting about agrochemicals. It's a very specific niche complaint, and it highlights Stewie's bizarre taste and his ability to find pleasure in the most unexpected things. Brian, as the manager, has to deal with Stewie's diva demands. It's a test of his new, clean persona. He's trying to be professional, but he's clearly annoyed. The Captain and Brett dynamic is a subtle nod to other TV shows or movies, adding another layer of meta-humor. Brian's confession of being wasted when they hang out reveals the cracks in his new persona. He's still struggling with his old habits. The volcano hike and the impending sacrifice is where the plot thickens for Stewie. He realizes he's the intended victim. He blames Brian for making his job a nightmare, a classic Stewie deflection. The mushroom surprise novel idea is a meta-commentary on writing and storytelling. It's a silly concept that highlights the show's own self-awareness about its narrative choices. It's a joke about how even a simple idea can be ruined by a poorly chosen title. It's a peek into the mind of Stewie as a writer, or at least his attempts at creative writing. The show is at its best when it's self-aware, and this little writing tangent is a good example of that. It's a meta-joke that appeals to the show's core audience. The idea of naming a book Mushroom Surprise and then thinking that gives it away is itself funny, because it does. It's a joke about people who overthink titles and ruin the surprise. Stewie's reasoning that it's the guy's favorite is the twist, but it's still weak. It's a testament to Stewie's intelligence that even his failed writing ideas are more complex than most people's successes. It shows that even when he's being a child, he's still incredibly smart and creative. The episode really highlights the different ways the characters cope with vacation. Peter copes with gluttony, Lois with escapism and quagmire, Brian with reinvention, and Stewie with elaborate schemes and dark humor.
It's a classic Family Guy ensemble piece, where everyone is off on their own little adventure, and the only thing connecting them is the shared location and the fact that they are, in fact, a family. The absurdity of the volcano sacrifice is the peak of Stewie's dark humor. He's always been drawn to the macabre, and here he's literally being offered up as a sacrifice. It's a shocking, yet somehow fitting, end to his arc in this episode. The fact that he's a virgin is the key, and the writers make sure to emphasize that, even if he found Jesus. It's a darkly comedic twist that highlights the show's willingness to push boundaries. The shoplifting fallout for Meg and Chris is a pretty standard consequence for their actions. Brian, as the manager, has to deal with it. The novelty license plates are great detail, showing Meg's desperation and her misguided attempts to create her own identity. Mel and Greg for Meg is a perfect example of a Meg-specific, slightly pathetic plan. The dialogue about people still naming their kids Mel is a funny, if slightly dated, jab at naming trends. It's a reminder that the show, while topical, can sometimes lag a bit behind current events. The writer's commentary on naming conventions is a subtle but effective way to show how out of touch some trends can be. The explanation that they don't print Mels and then that they don't order them is a great back and forth, showing the mundane reality behind even the most absurd requests. The episode really plays on the idea of identity. Brian is trying to be someone he's not, Stewie is embracing his dark side, and Meg is trying to be someone she's not by wearing a tourist t-shirt. It's all about trying to find yourself, or, in their case, trying to escape yourself. Lois and Quagmire's scene with the cherry and crest is, well, it's exactly what you'd expect from them. The double entendre is thick, and the awkwardness is palpable. Lois trying to take her cherry and Quagmire asking for her crust is a very NSFW-esque exchange, even if it's played relatively subtly. It's a testament to the show's ability to hint at things without being overly explicit, relying on the audience's imagination. Brian's interaction with the resort executive is the culmination of Stewie's manipulation. He's using Brian's position as manager to get what he wants. Brian is stuck in the middle, trying to do his job while also dealing with Stewie's bizarre demands. The mention of Michael Clayton is a deep-cut reference for movie buffs, and it's a funny detail that Stewie would be so invested in.
It shows his surprisingly sophisticated taste, even when he's being a complete nightmare. The line about George Clooney shouting about toxic agrochemicals scratching a very specific itch is a perfect Stewie line. It's a testament to his unique way of viewing the world, finding pleasure in the most unusual and specific things. It's the kind of observation that makes Stewie so fascinating. Brian's forced apology to Stewie is a moment of genuine character development. He's trying to be a better person, and that means taking responsibility, even when it's difficult. He's learning to navigate the complexities of his relationships, and that includes dealing with Stewie's manipulative tendencies. His apology, "I've missed you, Captain," to Brett, and then his realization that it's Brian, shows his drunken state and his confusion. It's a moment of vulnerability, and it highlights the struggles he's facing with his sobriety. He's still susceptible to falling back into old habits. The quick trip back to the cabana waitress with the lopsided boob job is a classic Family Guy cutaway gag. It's random, it's gratuitous, and it's funny in its sheer randomness. It's the kind of joke that makes you laugh because it's so unexpected. The volcano sacrifice plotline is the main driver of the episode's climax. Stewie is in real danger, and he has to rely on Brian to save him. It's a test of their relationship, and it's a moment of genuine suspense. The irony of Brian's job being turned into a nightmare by Stewie is a nice touch, adding another layer of conflict. The mushroom surprise novel idea resurfaces, and it's a good example of how the show can weave seemingly random jokes into the larger narrative. It's a callback that adds a layer of humor and continuity. The idea of a book where you don't know it's a mushroom until the last page is a clever concept. It's a meta-commentary on storytelling and the element of surprise. It's a joke that works on multiple levels. The episode culminates in a typical Family Guy fashion: chaos, misunderstanding, and a questionable resolution. The characters are left with a mix of embarrassment, relief, and continued annoyance. It's a ride, and for better or worse, they all survived. And through it all, Peter's quest for cheesecake remains the most grounded, yet absurd element of the entire journey. It's a testament to the show's ability to find humor in the mundane and the ridiculousness of everyday life, even when it's set against the backdrop of a tropical paradise.
It's a classic Family Guy episode, in that it tries to juggle multiple storylines, some successful, some less so, and ultimately delivers a chaotic but entertaining experience. The writers clearly had a lot of ideas bouncing around, and while they didn't all land perfectly, the effort is appreciated. The episode is a solid example of the show's formula, with its trademark humor, character-driven gags, and occasional forays into more mature or satirical territory. It's an episode that will likely satisfy longtime fans who appreciate the show's unique brand of comedy, while also providing enough new material to keep things interesting. It's not an episode that breaks new ground, but it's a testament to the enduring appeal of the characters and their consistent ability to generate laughs, even in the most improbable of circumstances. The show continues to be a reliable source of entertainment, and this episode, while not perfect, is no exception. It's a reminder that even after all these years, Family Guy can still deliver the goods, even if it sometimes stumbles along the way. And that's what makes it so enduring. It's the willingness to take risks, to be a little bit messy, and to always, always go for the joke, even if that joke involves cheesecake or a volcano sacrifice. The show understands its audience, and this episode, for all its quirks, is a pretty good representation of what those fans have come to expect. It's a little bit of everything, and that's precisely why it works. It's the kind of episode that makes you say, "Yep, that's Family Guy," and then immediately want to see what they'll do next. And that, my friends, is a sign of a show that knows how to keep its audience hooked, even after all these seasons. It's the little things, like